Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the Podiatry Business Podcast. So today's podcast is called How to Know If It's the Right Time to Recruit Another Podiatrist or Another Staff Member. Okay, so what we're talking about now today is one of the biggest sticking points I see for clinic owners. When is it actually smart, or when is the right time to take on that next staff member? This is something I get asked a lot, and hiring can feel like it's the solution for a lot of people, but it can also be the fastest way to create more stress, more pressure, more payroll pressure, and cause more problems for your clinic if you get it wrong. And there's two kind of common mistakes that I see all the time with clinic owners. The first is hiring too late. So you're already kind of drowning, and you haven't thought it out in advance. Then it's a rush decision, or you've left it late enough. And I have a few clients I'm working with at the moment, and I'm feeling they're leaving it too late because they're worried, they're not trusting their numbers or their system, which I'm going to show you in a second. So as a result, they're losing profit, they're having to work harder, and they're stressed and becoming burnt out. So hiring too late can be a real problem, but hiring too early can also be a problem. So if you take on too many staff, or you have staff too early, and this is mistakes I've made, when the numbers just don't support it and the business becomes fragile as a result of that. So in this episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through a fairly simple framework that I help my clients with, to know when hiring is the smart decision, when it's the right thing to do, and how to do it without headache, and I suppose with the reassurance that it's the right thing to do. So the question I get asked is, should I hire another podiatrist, or should I hire another admin? And really what they're asking is it the right time? And I think more than anything is, can I afford to pay the wages? Can I afford to hire someone? And a better question would be, will hiring this person buy back time and create capacity for you, for the clinic, that is ultimately going to turn into greater profits? Because that is the point. There's no point in taking on loads of staff if you're not making any more money. You're just causing more stress and hassle for yourself, because the goal isn't having more staff, the goal isn't having a bigger clinic, the goal is having a greater profit that gives you the lifestyle that you want. The goal really is more capacity, more billable hours, maybe a better patient experiences if you can, smoother delivery for your patients, and a business that really doesn't rely on you for everything. So I'm going to talk you through a few steps on how you can do this. So step one is, before you hire anyone, be honest with yourself. What's the problem you're actually trying to solve? Maybe it's that you're just feeling overwhelmed, that you're working too many hours clinically treating patients. Maybe what's happening is you're having to draw in admin work and do a lot of that admin work. Maybe you're having to return calls, to do invoicing, etc., etc. Or maybe it's that you want to scale the business and increase your profits. That's all perfectly fine. But first think, what is the problem I want to solve? Because if you're not clear on what the problem is you want to solve, you'll end up hiring any old person. You'll still have the problem, it's just going to cost you more money, and with the same problem, it's going to be more expensive. So first, what is the problem that you have? So what we do with this is we work out, what is the problem, what does a good outcome look like, what is what needs to happen for this outcome to occur, what's the skill set that person needs, or somebody needs, to do those things to give you that outcome, and so on and so forth. Step two is check your systems, because quite often what will happen is a system can solve the problem, and the thing is, it can often save you money, because a lot of clinics don't really have a staffing problem. Certainly for an admin size, they have a systems problem. So before you go and you hire someone, have a look and see, have I systemized this correctly? Have I got enough? So I've spoken to a few clinics in the last few weeks, and these clinics, they're decent size. They might have 4 podiatrists, maybe 5 podiatrists, but they've got 3 full-time admin team members. One client I'm working with at the moment, and they have 3 full-time podiatrists and 2 part-time, and they have 3 admin members, which makes no sense. So it's not that they need more staff in the admin is that they need a better system and probably need less staff, if I'm honest. So have a look at your systems and see, maybe I need to systemize this and I can solve that problem without having to take on a staff member. Now, when it comes to treating patients face to face, that can be a bit different. But you can still systemize a lot of what you're doing when it comes to your clinical and when it comes to your podiatry teams. So that's step 2. Step 3 is, do you have all green lights? So I don't tend to watch Formula 1, but anytime I do, I see that they have multiple green lights. You have to have all green lights to say go. And it's the same thing for that. So there should be a few green lights that you have. And this is what I teach my clients. So the first is, do you have consistent demand? Not a random busy week. Oh my God, I was really busy this month. I feel wrecked this week. I should probably take someone on. Do you have a strong month? And then another one, and then another one. Is it consistent? You don't want to be hiring off emotion. You want to be hiring off the numbers. So really what I like to see is that you have consistent booking. You don't have to be 100% full or 110% full because you're squeezing people in, but you got to have a certain number that you know you're having, and it's doing so for 8 to 12 weeks. You need to know that you have a steady flow of new patients or leads that you can turn up. Your marketing is good enough for you to turn that up. So if I take on that next staff member, I'm going to have enough work for them to go. And that your diary is hitting its utilization targets. So hiring shouldn't be based on a busy spell. It should be based on numbers. Because if you just panic when you get really busy, then you're going to take on staff, not have thought about it. And then when things slow down because you haven't fixed this and made sure that the systems are in place to make sure you're always hitting those targets, you're going to find that staff member is not paying their way or not working out the way you want. Green light number 2 is, are you turning away revenue? So this is probably one of the simplest ones. Are you missing calls? Is it taking too long for you to get back to people? Maybe that's where you need some more admin help. Or are you booked out and your patients have nowhere else? That patients are going elsewhere. They're ringing, they can't get in for a week or two, so they're going somewhere else. You're already paying the cost basically of not hiring. So you probably be thinking, well, I've got to hire someone and pay them. Actually, you're losing revenue because of that. And if you know your numbers well enough, you can figure out quickly. You can figure out fairly quickly, well, this is going to work. So, for example, if you know your average hourly revenue, and you know how many hours I can get this person to work, and I know I can fill their diary maybe 80% of the time. You can figure out fairly quickly how much money that person is going to generate for you on a weekly and a monthly basis versus what they're going to cost in wages, and that gives you that reassurance. The third green light is you want to make sure that if you hire someone, that you're not anxious over having to pay their wage, so that payroll isn't going to make you anxious every week. So what you really want to do is you want to make sure that you have a bit of a buffer where the business can handle it if the hire doesn't work out quite as well or doesn't get up to speed as quickly. So typically what I would say to my clients is you want to basically make sure that you have enough cash in the bank to pay at least 50% of that person's wage if it's a podiatrist for 2-3 months, because surely within 2 months they're going to be generating enough money to at least pay their wage. And if not, you don't have to stress because you have that money there. Now, if within 2-3 months it's not working, well then you don't have to make a cut. You've made a mistake and you've got to go backwards. So you have to ask yourself essentially with these green lights, what's my utilization rate? Do I have a high enough percentage of patients that I actually am probably losing work? And that's a number, and it's slightly different for every clinic. It's typically between 80 and 95%, depending on how you're measuring it and depending on the clinic. Secondly, have I got enough cash flow that I can afford to supplement their wages for at least a month, maybe 2, maybe even 3, depending on how you are. If you don't, and that's going to cause you anxiety and stress, maybe better off waiting. And then thirdly, do I have enough predictable patient flow, not just full, but actually I have a marketing system in place that I can fill these when we get slow days, slow weeks, and so on. So if not, you might need to go and look at these and fix these. If you don't know these numbers, you got to go and figure them out and look at them. This is something we do with our coaching clients. We teach them how to do this, how to know, so that when they're taking on this staff member, it is a numbers-based, rational decision. It's not based off gut or how busy they feel or how tired they are. I won't allow my clients to work their business or run their business on gut. That's never going to work. Okay, so that's the green lights. So step 4 then is, what do I need to hire? Who do I need to hire and what to avoid? So in most clinics, the smartest hire are the ones that are going to help you to protect revenue and to free up higher value time. Okay, let me explain what I mean by that. So if you're at the moment having to answer the phone, that's not a really high value prospect for you. So you could probably get someone in and pay them, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds an hour. And then it allows you then to go and treat patients where you're generating 150 to 200 pounds an hour or more. You can see the difference. Now, if you're treating patients and you're full all the time and you're bringing in 150 to 200 an hour, and really what you need to do is you need to free up 4 hours a week so you can run the business and do value tasks that are going to generate 10,000 and so on, and multiples. Because often what happens is the jobs that you're doing when you're running the business, I'm not talking about firefighting jobs, they're putting in systems, making business decisions that are going to give you an exponential and ongoing income into that business going forward. So yes, you might think, well, I'm going to lose 200 here for this hour, but actually I'm going to make thousands over the next few weeks, few months, few years. And I talked about this last week in the last podcast. So often what that looks like is that you might find that you need a front desk person, or maybe you need an admin, or maybe you need a virtual assistant who can do that, and so on. But also you might find that it could be clinical staff. So when it comes to clinical staff, you kind of got two options really typically in podiatry, and one is associate, and what I mean by associate is they get a percentage of what they bring in versus employee. Now, I'm not a great fan of associate. Very quickly, I don't like it very much, because what you find is you don't get loyalty from that staff member because they're not secure, and you can totally understand why you're not going to be their priority. Your business is not their priority because they're self-employed essentially, and they're going to be putting themselves first, and that's not necessarily what you want. So if you want them to hang back or see this patient that is not going to bring any income and so on, that's not really going to work very well for you. Doesn't mean it can't have its place. I'm not dismissing it completely, but for a well-run larger clinic that you want to basically not be, as the owner, you don't want to be the one that's driving the majority of the income, then an associate's not the great way to go. I prefer an employee, but you've got pros and cons to both. And in our coaching program, what we do with our coaching calls is we talk through what works best for the client, and that's cool. Some associates, some employees. Full-time versus part-time. Maybe it's not appropriate to have a full-time clinician. Might be better to have someone part-time. It just takes some of the stress away from you when it comes to the wages and payroll. And if you think that your marketing isn't strong enough to fill that full-time role, then part-time might work for you. And we look at those and we figure all that from the numbers. So if I kind of wrap this up, essentially, if you're wondering if it's time for you to make that next hire, now basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't hire to fix chaos. You want to fix systems that you have. Okay? You want to fix the systems that you have first, then hire someone, because what that does is it runs a lot smoother and it makes things better, and it makes for a better run business. And a better run business gives better outcomes to your patients and gives you a more profitable business. You want to hire to solve a specific problem, not just because you're busy. So figure out what's the problem you're trying to solve, and then what do I do to solve that? And a hire can often be the case. Make sure you have your green lights. You've got all green lights, and you understand your green light protocols for your clinical staff, and that you have numbers and you're measuring the numbers, and you're not just doing last week's numbers, but you're doing them on a consistent basis, and you understand that. And make sure that you understand your utilization percentages, that you understand your cash flow, and that it's not going to put you under pressure and under stress, because life is too short for that. And that you have some sort of predictable patient flow. Now, this is the kind of thing we help our coaching clients with. We help them figure this out. We put in systems in place with them so that they're able to predict when they need that next staff member, and then we look at recruiting and getting that next staff member, which is what next week's podcast will be about. Next week, what I'm going to talk about is why you can't recruit clinical staff. I hear this all the time from podiatrists. I can't get any staff, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I know there's not a lot of clinical staff when it comes to podiatry out there in the world, but there are solutions, and my clients are growing their businesses from 2 clinicians to 6 and 7 and 8 clinicians. So there are ways around it. We're going to talk about how you can recruit clinical staff in a time when it is quite competitive. So if you want help with your business, you want me to help you build a better business and give you more financial freedom in your business, then go to morepracticeprofits.com. You can speak to Virtual Lorcan on the homepage, who will help you devise a plan, and then from that plan you can either take it, do it yourself, or you can come and talk to us. Virtual Lorcan will tell you how to do that, and then from there we can discuss how we can help you implement that. So until next week, this is Lorcan signing out.